Polyglot community, like a improve yourself strand. And so here I've represented it with this guy, Polyperfection. For a little added feature. Did you all catch that? I'm feeling pretty proud of that, actually. So the polyperfect person has a series of very wide-ranging goals that make me exhausted just to contemplate. But I will give you an example of what I'm talking about. This year's goals: learn Burmese, bench press 150 kilograms, write 200 blog entries, refresh Dutch to C1, quintuple my revenues, and run a 4-minute 1,500-meter race. I would like to do that. That doesn't seem imminent. There's a lot of discussion in the community about gender and polyglots, because a lot of the high-profile polyglots who have in a noticeable way acquired a lot of skills are male. You see probably a little bit more of that online. At least I do. And if your observation differs from mine, I'm certainly happy to hear about that in the question period after the presentation. But in general, I myself am aware of more males. So I want to ask the question, what's the difference between a girl polyglot and a boy polyglot? I think there might be a difference, and I actually am not, on average. I mean, we have a whole spectrum of human behaviors. I don't mean to suggest that there are two diametrically opposed genders where, everyone who's male is this way and everyone who is female is this way. But I don't know if any of you ladies have been in long-term relationships with a guy and you've hung out with that guy and a whole lot of other guys. You might have found that there's a lot of, for example, talking. So here's one difference that I actually made the next slide after attending a talk the other day where a bunch of guys kept interrupting the guy speaker to ask questions, and all the women were just quietly waiting. So it just made me reflect on it. So I came up with this as one possible difference between the boy polyglot and the girl polyglot. Can you all read it? The second one is Bet Chomsky. So sometimes the men are just more active. I also find that in general, if you look to extreme behaviors in society, crazy stunts and stuff like that, I don't see as many women trying to jump over the Grand Canyon or something like that. So it's possible that there's just more of an acquisitive thing, I don't know, or a more public acquisitive thing, but there are a lot of very skilled female polyglots. And the notion that women may be more adept at communicating is certainly one that's been put out socially in the world a lot. So these are just things that I think about. Now the following slide applies not to the people here, because I consider you to be among the dedicated in this larger online community that I'm familiar with. But sometimes in the polyglots group, I see there's a phenomenon of people coming into the group and posting, I speak 18 languages, how many do you speak? And then everyone posts their languages. And the exaggeration is so crazy that I've come up with a mathematical formula to describe it. Men, please don't be mad at me. I'm talking about what I see online. So this is like borderline trollish behavior. I'm not talking about committed polyglot groups. So L is the likelihood that the learner exaggerates the polyglot skills. LM is the likelihood that a male does it. F is the likelihood that a female does it. And I actually would have made that first number much bigger, but I was worried that you would get mad at me. Okay. All right, now for my sociological study, where study is a complete lie because there's nothing scientific about this. I'm just throwing random ideas up here that I've observed. This is about tendencies I've observed in the polyglot community, general tendencies. There seem to be an awful lot of vegetarians and vegans. What's up with that? Which is kind of cool. I mean, it's interesting. I was one for 5.5 months, but I'm not anymore. Now, the next one, do not take this personally. I'm merely reporting what people have told me. In the online groups, people post things like, I hate Skype because then I have to act like an actual person and talk to another person. I mean, they say things like this. So I've added a category for slight social awkwardness.
What about
This doesn't mean that everyone is like
autism?
this. It just means that it might be slightly more represented in the polyglot community than in the community than in the world at large. I will leave that up to you to decide. I don't know whether we have any gay polyglots in here. So it's really hard for me to not notice that I have about 500 more gay friends than I've had since college. No, wait, 500 times more. It's really, so I started out with a small, like a category, and then I wasn't really sure where it should be. It's somewhere in that range. I actually think this is an area that could be interesting for research in the future, so I would love to see more on that. Okay, now we have a circle representing the world's polyglots. I want to remind you of one thing that probably some of you are very aware of, but others may not think about as much, and that is that among the world's polyglots, we're a little tiny dot. The world is full of skilled, multilingual people that don't come to these events. We're the ones that like to come to events, but there are all kinds of people polyglotting along, like just having that woven into the fabric of their lives, and maybe not thinking about it as self-consciously as we are, or maybe not caring that there are people out there that would love to talk to them, or maybe never going on the internet and not having an email. I mean, I know eccentric people who do all kinds of things. I think it's useful to remember this, because one of my goals for the future would be to bring more people into the fold who live active and especially professional polyglot lives. I'd like to know more about the people who really have that as part of their daily existence, using a lot of languages, loving them, and being able to support themselves with language a part of their lives. I know that a complaint of a lot of members of this community is that they want to have more language in their life, but they have to go to work or school and then come back to language when they have the crevices to fit that in.